Hey, and welcome to the Ninja Babes podcast. What's up? I'm here today with Elly Hart. Thank you for joining us, Elly. What's up?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be on the show.
Woohoo! I'm super excited. A lot of people know you in the Ninja Warrior community, not just for your big smile and how friendly you are, but also for your expertise for what you do in your work and what you bring to the Ninja community. So, who are you? And can you explain a little bit, just in a nutshell, what is your job and what do you do?
Yeah, definitely. So I am a physician assistant that works in sports medicine, and I also got my doctorate degree. And what I do is I treat athletes of all ages, from young athletes as young as 5 years old, up until our older athletes, even 95 years old, who are still doing sports and athletics, diagnosing their injuries, treating them, evaluating them, also doing surgeries as well, both for the knee and the shoulder. And then I invented a new field of sports medicine called Gymnastics Medicine, which is a gymnastics specific focused clinic on the diagnosis, treatment, education, and prevention of gymnastics injuries.
Yes, so important. It's like crazy. I love all the things that you do, and I love that you bring so much of your work into ninja. And yeah, I know you've treated ninjas as well, right? We don't have to go into people's like personal information, but
Correct. Yes, I do
you're,
treat a lot of ninjas as well. And sort
yeah,
of an up and coming is I'm hoping to expand that ninja market in the future. So if there are any
yes,
ninjas out there listening who maybe have struggled with injuries or have questions about a diagnosis, feel free to connect with me. I'm happy to chat
hmm,
about those injuries and help you overcome them.
yes, yeah, and we're definitely gonna get more into that later on as we go into the episode. So why don't you tell us where are you from? Where do you train out of, and how long have you been involved in ninja?
Yeah, so I'm in Boston, Massachusetts. I started training back in October of 2019, but didn't really take my training too seriously. And then, as we all know, the world kind of shut down with COVID. So I sort of say my true ninja start would be actually October of 2020. And I train at Vitality, and Jordan's my coach over there, as well as I train with Taylor, who also helps coach on the side as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Such a great crew up there at Vitality. I feel we just had Taylor Johnson last week and it's been like a 1-2 punch of like and Jordan was on before that. So it's been
We're just
like
going through the
it's
whole
been
Vitality crew.
I know, it's just such a gem up there. You gotta come visit.
You should for
Um,
sure. Yeah, it's an awesome community. Jordan's a fantastic coach. All my teammates are awesome. Everyone's there giving tips and tricks on how to do different obstacles. It's actually a
yeah.
really welcoming and warm environment, despite what you might hear up north about us Northerners. It's actually a great place to train and learn new skills.
I just thought it was so funny too when I if you listen to Jordan's episode at the end, he was like saying how he like had all these like jokes about
He
women
did,
playing and he like
yes.
didn't give any of them. And I was like, that's really funny because you have so many females at your gym who love you. So I know that you're not like a jerk. I know that you're actually a really awesome
He
person
is.
and it's just hilarious.
He is. Don't let him fool you. He also has an adorable dog named Callie, and I will say she definitely helps me train better. I'm just saying.
Oh, wait, does the dog come to the
Of
gym?
course, the dog comes to the gym, and I pet the dog in between obstacles. It's kind of like a little reward.
That's so funny. It's like a therapy dog. I want a dog in my gym.
You should. You should
Oh,
request it.
I know, it's like, "Oh, I didn't get this obstacle. Let me get a hug, and I'll go try
Exactly.
again." Yeah,
Exactly.
that's awesome. So, what is your background, and have you applied for A&W before, and what's up with, like, your thoughts on A&W 13?
Yeah, no, great question. So a little bit about me. I actually started gymnastics at the age of 3 years old. Did our junior Olympic program, went all the way to level 10. Then actually did Division 1 college gymnastics at James Madison University. There I studied athletic training, sports medicine, and kind of got into that field because of all the injuries that I had actually had as a young gymnast. And then essentially, of course, continued my career on as a physician assistant and then getting my doctorate degree in sports medicine. Um, in terms of sort of other skills, I did take a long break in between ending my gymnastics career and starting ninja. And one of the reasons why I wanted to start ninja is I had seen on A&W that a lot of gymnasts had done very well in ninja. as well as I wanted something that would be fun, kind of having a team, working out together, but not your traditional gym, if you will, where you go to the gym and
Yeah.
work out. So this was a really good mix of kind of multiple talents. Last year, I actually did get the call to be on A&W, so that was really exciting
Yeah.
for me. That was my first year applying. Then again, because of COVID, they changed the format
Mhm.
a little bit there, so did not compete last year. And then was beyond excited to get the call for this season. So yep, this is my first season.
Congratulations.
Yeah, rookie.
Ooh, that's so exciting. Rookie year is like, it's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. To be honest, I'm not sure exactly what to expect. However, I'm looking to have a
Mhm.
really fun time, meet a lot of great
Yes.
people, and kind of get my name out there in the ninja community.
Woohoo! Awesome. Well, congratulations
Thank
again.
you.
And yeah, rookie year, like absolutely my advice for rookies, any other
Mhm.
rookies, anyone listening is like just have fun and of course you want to do well. Of course you want to go as
Yeah.
far as possible. You want to hit a buzzer, but don't let like the experience of like the pressure of needing to perform
Yep.
well like outweigh the joy of just being there and having a great time and enjoying it and just like being in the moment and like really soaking it all in because it really is such like a unique experience.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would say I try to follow my five ninja commandments, if you will. My first is to look cool. That's really important to me. I'm an older ninja. I will throw that out there. Despite my fun colors, I am much older than I look. If you do the math,
Oh wait, now I want to guess your
I was
age or
gonna say if you
something.
do the math on my education, you can get it. So we'll throw it there.
Oh.
Undergrad, master's, doctorate. So just throwing it out there. So
Okay. Uh,
don't worry, don't worry.
you're definitely like over minimum over the age of like 32,
You're correct. Yes,
maximum.
I'm turning 33 in June, actually. So I was
Oh,
that's
okay.
what you're
Oh
good. You're
wow.
right on the money there.
There it is.
So
Okay.
first rule is to look cool. Second rule is to have fun. Third rule is to be safe because, as you know, in sports medicine, you want to protect yourself from injuries. Fourth
Yeah.
rule is to go as far as you can go on the course. So that's not comparing yourself to anyone else. That's truly just individually how far can I make it and how far do I feel that I can do it. And the last is to eat a cookie, which is a little fun reward. So you can ask the Vitality crew. Everyone's jumped on the bandwagon. So now I show up with plentiful number of cookies at the end of our competitions.
Oh, I love that. That's so funny. Wait, is there a fan favorite of Ninja cookies?
Oh,
What's like
so it is
the
actually a
best?
homemade bakery that is about 5 minutes down the street from me. So that is our go-to spot
Wow.
that I bring to the competition.
I love this. Not I have even more reason to come to Vitality now,
See,
so I'll have to
exactly.
make the drive.
Exactly. Just come to a comp with me. I'll get you a cookie. Don't worry.
Oh, I love it. So I love like just how bubbly you are and how encouraging you are to everybody. You were just on one of the Ninja Babes like Spotlight Wow Wednesday posts, so it's just awesome to have you in our community, and I really appreciate you. And I know so many other people who really know you personally appreciate you so much. So well, that's
Oh,
another reason why I'm just happy to have you on the
thank
podcast today.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of been known even throughout the gymnastics world as sort of having this bubbly, fun, friendly personality. I try to encourage everyone to do their best at every competition, whether that's gymnastics, whether that's ninja. And
Hmm.
like I said, I think it's really important, especially with other women, uplifting other women. That's really important,
Of
especially even
course.
in the field of sports medicine and orthopedics. There aren't that many females that are out there. So definitely trying to find the woman around you and really lift them up is great.
Absolutely. So what would you say it was that really ignited your passion for helping not just ninjas, but like helping women athletes?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that my biggest thing is my personal struggle with injury. So I'm more than happy to disclose all my injuries. When I was 8 years old, I actually had a fracture in my back from gymnastics. So that was sort of my first starting injury. Then it went to a fracture in my wrist, a fracture in my knee. I ended up having two knee surgeries, one at the age of 12, one at the age of 14. I just kept getting injured. And I said, there has to be a better way. There has to be some sort of specific treatment, specific diagnosis, so someone doesn't keep getting these injuries. And that's kind of what sort of ignited sort of my passion for sports medicine. Is I was just in and out of the office so much with x-rays, MRIs, casts, boots, all those different things, you name it. And I said there should be another way. There should be a sort of specific method for female athletes to get them back to the sport that they love, have a specific diagnosis for their sport and for their injury, and specifically just for them. And what's really cool is I have a little bit more of a concierge clinic. So I'm actually able to spend 30 minutes, even an hour with my patients, just talking to them about what the injury is, how it happened, how do we prevent this injury from happening again. So that's been really exciting for me, especially with, I'm sure you've seen in the medicine world, it's, 5 minute, 10 minute, 10 minute visits, you're in and out really quickly. So this is definitely a different style of sports medicine, which has been really great, not only for me, but also for my patients and their education around those injuries.
Yeah, I feel like especially I think athletes particularly really want to
Mhm.
understand because they are so invested in their sport. They're invested in their body. They want to know how to get stronger and like
Mhm.
what went wrong, how can I avoid that? And so I think that's so amazing and so important. Yeah. Do you feel that when you were younger and you're having some of those injuries and dealing with all that, did it discourage you from wanting to go back to sports, or were you more so just motivated to figure out how to help and how to avoid it?
Yeah, great question. I would say sort of a mixture of the two, right? Anytime any athlete has an injury, sort of your first thing is you're really bummed out, right? You want to be competing, you want to be with your fellow teammates. You're seeing everybody else do everything that you're saying. Oh, I know I could do that obstacle. I know I could do that skill. I know I could participate in that game or that competition. So I think the first stage is always right. That sort of I'm bummed out. I'm in that kind of denial of oh, how do I get back in faster? And then, just as you mentioned, kind of understanding and educating yourself on, how did I get this injury? Why did this injury occur? Was this one of those fluke injuries that I jumped to something and my shoulder came out of place? Or was this, I was overtraining and now my biceps is killing me? And so I have biceps tendonitis. So I think kind of thinking about sort of those different stages. Um, and then kind of last sort of saying okay, how can I make this better, how can I make sure this doesn't happen again. And one of the things that I've tried to do, especially in my gym, is take some of the younger athletes under my wing and say hey, I joke, I call it the grandma 30-minute warm up. But essentially I do a whole bunch of prevention exercises that then help me stay in shape and help me stay and prevent those injuries from either coming back or starting. So I think it's been kind of a mixture of sort of everything from my personal experience of saying, how do I prevent these, as well as kind of saying, how do I help future athletes as well.
Yeah, that's so key. I love that. And I love that you're pulling those athletes aside and saying like, "Hey, let's do this. Like this is important." Cuz I think all too often it's like people don't think about
Mhm.
injury prevention or like even understanding like the building up your stamina kind of thing like against injury until it happens and then you're like, "Oh, something went wrong." It's like, we got to think backwards a little bit. But I know that we'll get into some actual
Mhm.
demonstrations of some of these
Yeah,
things at the end of the episode,
yeah.
right? So I'm really excited to share that with the community. Yeah. So I'm wondering also, are there common injuries that you notice in Ninja Warrior?
Yes, that's a great question. I'm actually looking into doing a couple of research studies. That's on my free time, I do some research. So there really
Yes.
aren't any studies right now that talk about ninja and ninja injuries. So just more from sort of just looking around and kind of more what I would call an observational study. So nothing too scientific just yet. But there are a lot of sort of shoulder, forearm injuries, and a lot more from overuse. Actually, my first NNL that I ever did, someone actually dislocated their shoulder, and I had to put that back in. So that was quite the experience for the first
Wow.
competition.
Oh man. Wow, yeah, at an NNL comp. Wow.
Yep, yeah. So that was very
That's
unique to do
crazy.
that.
Yeah, I
That
can
was the start
imagine.
of my ninja career, and I said to myself, I need to make sure I do some prevention so I don't dislocate my shoulder.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And it's like such a funny way to be like, well, I guess I'm needed in this community. I guess maybe this is where I need to be. Like
Right. Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So I
Yeah.
I think kind of just in general too, as a sport grows, and I know that they're trying to get sort of Olympic status as well, is that they'll eventually probably need medical staff. So just throwing it out into the universe right now. If you guys are looking
Yes.
for any ninja sports medicine, I'm also a certified athletic trainer as well. That was again that first degree that I got for undergrad. And I do actually cover for Team USA for USA Gymnastics. So I'm part of their contracted medical staff as well. So,
Wow, that's so cool. That's really cool. I didn't realize that. That's really
yeah.
amazing.
Like I wear a lot of hats. I travel a little everywhere, still in sports medicine, but a mixture of sports medicine.
That's so cool. I love it. So good. So, what is it then? Because I know that your background's in
Mhm.
gymnastics, and that's kinda like where
Yeah.
you got started in your athletic career. How have you moved into that field of gymnastics and sports medicine and tried to develop that field? Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, definitely. So first, I actually started working at Boston Children's Hospital under Dr. Lyle McKaylee, who's one of the founders of Pediatric Sports Medicine. And what he did is he kind of told me, I said, Dr. McKaylee, how did you start pediatric sports medicine? That's a huge field. It's of course now very well known throughout the country and internationally as well. And he said, well, the first thing I did is I proved that I was an expert in the field. And I said, well, how do you do that? And he said, well, you have to do research. And I said, okay, so let's start with that. So I started by doing essentially what's called a literature or a review. So, meaning I sort of reviewed over all the literature that was written about gymnastics injuries over the past 20 years and kind of summarized, what was the most common injury, what's the diagnosis, what's the treatment, how do we prevent it, what are gymnastics specific injuries, and kind of just put this very long document, manuscript, if you will, together, submitted to a journal. And essentially, they accepted it and published it in Current Sports Medicine Review. So that is my first published paper, which was very exciting.
Yes, so
Thank you,
cool.
thank you. So that was a few years ago. And then as I was in clinic, I would start to notice that gymnasts would come in and they would say things. So I'll throw some gymnastics terminology out there. I know there's probably some former gymnastics ninjas out there. So they would say, I was doing my Yurchenko on vault, which is a fancy skill where you do a round off, which is a curt with your feet together, and then you do a back handspring, so back flip kind of onto the vault, and then you flip over. But the formal name is a Yurchenko. And they said I was doing a Yurchenko vault, and that's how I injured my knee. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, we're doing a tuck, a pike, a layout, flip." And the gymnast didn't say anything about her injury, but said, "You know what gymnastics is? I don't have to explain what this is." um, and so, from kind of hearing that, and then that happened a few more times, I said, "Huh, maybe we need kind of this gymnastics specific focused clinic." And there already was
Yeah.
something called dance medicine that was very successful. So I said,
Hmm.
we are similar to dance. However, gymnasts are doing a lot more hours, a lot more impact, a lot more pounding, and there are gymnastics specific injuries. So why don't we have a clinic that's just for them? So then I pitched
Mhm.
the idea to sort of the hospital I was working at that time, and then actually sort of truly started my dream now just about 3 years ago at a private practice that's now through the Steward facility. It's called the Boston Sports and Performance Center. It's just right outside of
Oh.
Boston in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And what's really cool is I have a balance beam, I have something called an air track. So not only are
Mhm.
we getting your diagnosis, and I can get same day x rays, same day MRIs, but then when you're ready to
Mhm.
go back to the sport, I actually look at your mechanics. How are you doing a skill so that way we can prevent this injury from happening again? And my hope is in the future we'll have something similar for Ninja, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Okay, first of all, that is just so cool, and I feel like any gymnast or previous oh my god, I'm tongue tied. I feel like any gymnast or anyone who used to be a gymnast who's now a ninja probably is like drooling over this because I feel like I don't know any gymnast who hasn't had some sort of
Right,
injury,
exactly.
even if it's minor or more major. And so it's just that's so amazing. Like, what an optimal way to be able to serve that community and like, for one, being able to get same day MRIs and X-rays is just, like, amazing, but then to know that you have the knowledge to actually know what they're talking about and to then see it in action in that back to sport process is, like, phenomenal, and that is so cool.
Thank you.
So, thank you for doing that.
Oh,
I'm not even a gymnast, but I know how, like, meaningful that is.
thank you. Yeah, I tell everyone, my passion is my profession, and I'm really lucky that every day that I get to go to work, I love what I do. It doesn't feel like work. And I hope that
Mhm,
I can then inspire others to either join this field if you are ever interested in it. I'm always happy to chat about even more how I got there. And also
mhm,
even inspire other sports to kind of have a little more specific clinics for them
mhm.
in sports medicine and orthopedics as well.
Yeah, so I have like several questions and like things moving
Yeah.
forward, but so like where to start? Um, so for one, why is it? I feel like maybe this is obvious, maybe it's not for some people listening. Why is having that very specific treatment so important for gymnastics? And then we're gonna talk about ninja too, but like, why is it so important? Why can't you just go to the doctor to any other sports PT and like explain it? show them and just let them do their thing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So usually you want someone who knows the sport, especially for that return to play protocol portion. So the most
Mhm.
common thing using my personal experience and why one of the reasons I think I had so many injuries back to back to back was I would get cleared to go back. So I would
Mhm.
be in a cast, for example, for my wrist fracture, and instead of someone saying, "Okay, slowly progress back in, and this is how you would do it," you'd break it
Mhm.
down week by week. The physician or whoever I saw would say, "Hey, yeah, you're cleared to go back." And I would say, "Okay, I'm going to go do my high level skills that same day." And so instead of slowly progressing back in,
Wow.
making my way back in, a 13-year-old female wants to go right back into the sport just like any other athlete as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
So I think understanding the sport and knowing the sport on how to progress back safely is really important to prevent those injuries in the future. Um, Also, I'm sure similar to ninja we'll find in the future, there are
Mhm.
gymnastics specific injuries. So, one that I talk a lot about is something called gymnast wrist. And again, that's kind of what I had for my wrist as well. And what that is, it's an injury to what's called the distal radial growth plate, which is on your thumb side right here. And
Mhm.
yep, exactly right there. And essentially, it's only for skeletally immature athletes, so meaning athletes who are still growing. And essentially, from pounding and impacting, you injure the growth plate. And the first thing that happens is the growth plate swells or gets inflamed. And then the next thing that happens is it actually closes early. And so, if
Mm.
someone's not really familiar with this diagnosis, they could say, "Oh, your growth plate's just closing like a normal rate." Where really you actually need to do x-rays of both sides. You have to compare the growth plates. So there's a few
Mm.
other gymnastic specific things that you would need to know in order to make that diagnosis. So gymnastic
Wow.
specific injuries would be important to know for kind of those providers.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, and then again, there's so many ninja specific
Yeah,
things that I want to get into like a personal story
of
for a
course.
second because I know I've heard of other ninjas who got injured before. I had my serious injury who would say like, "Oh, I found this great or I went to PT, I'm not really sure if it helped. I feel like I knew more of the exercises I should be doing than they
Mhm,
did." Which like I've heard that sometimes because a lot of ninjas
mhm,
are really invested in their training and like maybe they have a mediocre experience,
mhm.
but then there's other ninjas like myself who I went to the Edge PT in Paramus, New Jersey, just quick shout out. But my my PTs there were amazing from the first day that I ever walked in before I even dislocated my shoulder.
Mhm,
I was there because again, separate issue, but I think I was overtraining and
mhm,
not really training in a balanced way. I had
mhm,
never done an upper body intensive sport before.
mhm.
I was not from gymnastics. I was like had a completely different background. I was mostly track and
Oh
field. And
boy.
so then to come to Ninja and just be like doing everything I could, like, okay, like do this challenge, do this hang challenge, do 100 push-ups as fast as you can, like all this stuff that like I was definitely getting stronger, but I could look back and see all the clear warning signs
Yeah.
of like I was definitely training imbalanced. And so from the day that I stepped into PT, which I was just there for like help my shoulder stop
Mhm.
hurting because I was like
Yeah.
I was in a lot of pain. Um, they right away the PTs there came to Ninja with me and wanted to see it, wanted to take videos, wanted to like understand where was the impact coming from, like what was I doing that was unique to the sport, and I appreciated that so much. And then like a year later when I actually did dislocate my shoulder, again, the PT Giancarlo Rizon that I was working with, he was just incredible in being able to like watch every single video I would bring to him, and he would be on my Instagram. He would understand what I was really doing, what I needed to get back to. And so then, once they treated me and I was getting more to like the back to sport
Mhm,
phase of my protocol, it changed from not that it was ever just like a regular protocol,
mhm,
like I was always on a sports specific
mhm,
protocol, but it very quickly like integrated like, all right, you need to be able to go back to laches. You need to be able to
mhm.
go back to like dinos and like salmon ladder moves
Yep.
and things like that. And so they would simulate the craziest things for me in their
Mhm,
facility with like whatever they had. And then they would like, try to pop off the bar, try to just, they would just create everything for me in house. And that was so huge. And so I hear what you're saying, especially about
mhm.
gymnastics and then in ninja as well, like we need sports specific ninja rehab.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we need it.
definitely.
And so I know that's something that you're passionate about creating.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, kind of the biggest thing, and what I always say is I'm always happy to have this great team. So I was able to make
Mhm,
a gymnastics medicine team. So we have sports nutritionists that I work with, gymnastics specific physical therapists, gymnastics specific mental toughness coaches. And so the
mhm.
goal would be for any
Wow.
athlete who gets injured is that they do have this multidisciplinary team. Because I think what a lot of athletes do miss is there are a lot of factors that contribute to injury, even if it is just an acute fall. So, meaning you slipped off of a bar or something like that. You're doing a lache and you missed and fell awkwardly. There were things that were leading up to that potential injury and the
Right.
overuse injuries. So, I think even from a ninja community kind of coming together and talking about what are some nutrition tips, what are some mental toughness tips, who's a great
Mhm,
physical therapist that you saw, who's a great sports medicine provider that you saw, and kind of keeping our community
mhm.
involved and letting others know when you find someone who is super helpful to kind of be able to help them find those people as well.
Yeah, that I think that's so important. So I'm just gonna look on my little
Yeah,
outline
of
here.
course.
Uh, so do you think that there are out there right now any do you have any good tips out there right now for people who are looking for ninja specific doctors or rehab or whatever? I know yourself has been a ninja specific doctor for many ninjas. And again, you're in Massachusetts, but are there, would you have any other advice? Someone who's on the West Coast or in another country who's like, how do I find someone who will be compassionate about learning what ninja is or
Yeah.
be able to help
Yeah,
me?
no, that's an awesome question. I think kind of the first thing is sort of breaking down orthopedics in general and kind of the medical system.
Hmm.
So, if you first get injured, usually the first thing that everyone has to do, depending on your insurance, of course, is sometimes you have to go to your primary care. So, meaning the person who
Hmm.
takes care of your general health. When they're there, kind of the biggest thing that I would recommend is especially if you are a high level ninja, high level athlete, is get a referral to actually sports medicine. So that's jumping orthopedics, even. So essentially,
Hmm.
it's your primary care who you would see first, get a referral to then go see sports medicine. So the reason why I say sports medicine and not general orthopedics is
Hmm.
orthopedists are fantastic, but they're not always as well adversed as we were talking about in kind of athletics
Hmm.
and athletic injuries. So they are very familiar with bones, joints, muscles, tendons, everything like that. They maybe aren't as versed in the sports world. So finding a
Yeah.
sports medicine provider, whether that's a physician, a physician assistant, a PA, a nurse practitioner, a sports medicine physical therapist, those would be sort of the
Yeah.
people who I would look to first, just so then that way you can find them in your community. And then it's really about kind of who you fit with and whose personalities you mesh well with. I think that's true in anything in terms of coaches who you mesh well with, teammates who you mesh
Hmm.
well with. And don't be afraid to ever seek a second opinion. I think that kind of in our day and age, not everyone says, "Oh, well, that's what the physician said, so I have to do exactly what they say." I think
Hmm.
getting a second opinion is totally normal. I'm usually the second or third opinion. Sometimes I'm a first opinion. And if a family or an athlete feels like they want more information, I'm always happy to say, "Hey, why don't you go see this person, or why don't you go see that person?"
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, you need to feel comfortable with your care, and feel like you're knowledgeable about what's going on with your body and your health. So that would kind of be my advice.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
everything
of
that you've shared so far in the
course.
podcast. For those of you who have been listening to the podcast, you know that we actually now have bonus material on through Patreon subscription. So we're about to close up this part of our episode, but for those of you who are subscribed to Patreon and get that bonus 15-20 minute segment of the episode, we'll move into that shortly. So, Ellie, thank you so much. Where can people find more information about you if they want to get in touch or if they want to meet you and come to your
Yeah,
clinic?
definitely. So I would say kind of the easy way to find me is on social media. So on Instagram, I am actually Elsbeth Hart. So that's Elspeth and then Hart Hart. That's my big kid name. Sorry, everybody out there. I do go by Ellie, so don't worry at all. If you see me on the course, feel free to say Ellie. You don't have to try to throw out Elspeth. Don't worry at all. That's a tough one to cheer for. So Ellie's perfect.
Elspeth.
So at
Love
Elsbeth
it.
Hart on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, also on TikTok as well. If you ever want to see some
Oh.
really funny videos, one of the surgeons who I work with, we do TikTok Fridays. So we have a lot of fun with the videos after we finish operating. We get the team together and we do a fun video to kind of do some team building and team bonding. Um, And then if
Wow,
you
that's hilarious.
it's a lot of fun.
I just got this image. This is probably not at all accurate, but I just got this image of like you and all the surgeons like closing up somebody's
It's
body
just
and being like holding up your scalpels, like it's Friday, and then you're like moving on, and then they wake up and you bring them into
it's a
recovery.
good time.
Anyways,
It's a good
it's
time, I'll
probably
throw
not.
that out there.
I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, go for it. And then, kind of, if you want to see me in clinic, it's called the Boston Sports and Performance Center in Wellesley, Massachusetts. If you forget that, just shoot me a message on Instagram. I'm always happy to answer questions, or you can also email me at gymnasticsmedicine@gmail.com. That's usually another easy way to get me.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll have all that out in the description, so it'll be easy for people to find,
Yes.
so you can look below and find it.
Cool.
So thank you so much for being on, Ellie. And again, for those of you who want to get the bonus material, if you just go on to patreon.com/ninjababes, you'll find how to subscribe there. And not only will you be getting bonus content and free gifts, you'll also be supporting the Ninja Babes podcast, which is huge because we cannot function and survive without your support. So thank you, everyone who's always been